So push continue.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Did it.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, great.
Well, welcome to the 2021 San Francisco Documentary Festival. Welcome to those of you who are watching. And I'd like to welcome Luna and Tosh and Jeff here with us for the Q&A for Who is Luna Menoh. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you all. And thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your day.
Thank you for
Thank you for
inviting us.
having us. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I will give sort of a warning. If you've somehow accidentally clicked on this before watching the film, please go back and watch the film and then come back to this Q&A so that way you can fully appreciate what we'll be talking about.
Absolutely.
Yes, please go back and watch it. Watch it more than once if you want to.
Yes, 3 times is good.
Yes, 3 or 4 times.
So to kind of start off the conversation, I know from doing a little bit of research, Jeff, you started off with this film, making a film about Luna in 2007, and it's mentioned in your, I hope this doesn't make you feel embarrassed, but it's mentioned in your filmmaker magazine, like filmmaker to watch
Oh my
article as
God,
well. And
Kayla, you dug deep.
I did dig a little bit deep. And so
That was deep.
I'm really curious about how the process sort of started for you. And then when did it sort of shift into the work that it became and how you all kind of decided to collaborate with each other into the film that becomes Who is Luna Minow?
Sure, okay, I can start this. Maybe I don't think Tosh and Luna are aware of this, but back in 2009-ish, I had made my first movie right out of film school about a hamster. And as I was promoting that movie and going on the festival circuit, I had already been 2 years into filming Luna. And the idea was to make a feature. At the beginning, it started out as just I was working for a record label that Luna was on in one of her bands, Jean Paul Yamamoto, which is in the film. And the owner of the record label, Reiko Kondo, who's also the producer of this film, she was pushing me to do expand on. I was first just doing a behind the scenes promotional for Luna, but then over the 2 years, we were thinking of doing a feature. And I was interviewed for Filmmaker Mag or one of the filmmaking magazines. So this is just for Luna and Tosh for because they don't know. And in
No.
the interview, I told them, a typical question is, what are you going to do next? And I said, oh, I'm working on this documentary about Luna Minow. And this was in 2009.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's what Kayla was referencing. I can't believe she found it. It's really special. But that's how it started. And over the years, one of the reasons why maybe a common question people are going to have when they after they watch this is why are there two credits? Why are there two director credits? It's myself and Luna. And I've been giving this a lot of thought lately because I never really thought about it up until now. But my thought process now about that there were other reasons initially why it was happening, but I was realizing over the years, over the 12 years that I was documenting Luna, and she was moving through different phases of her own career and her own repertoire of ideas. Primarily, they're always around, fashion and the fashion industry. And as she was doing that, and I was filming her, I noted, and this is the first time Luna and Tosh may be hearing this, so they might be shocked. But I was noticing that Luna was acting a little differently as the years were going on, as I was filming her. And she would say she doesn't. She would say she's just, she's normally she doesn't care that I'm there, or I like a fly on the wall. But there's this psychology process with documentary film that I'm just now realizing because it's happened to me. When you're on camera, when you know you're being recorded,
Mhm.
even if you don't try to, subconsciously, I think you're putting on a different performance,
Mhm.
and you're subconsciously doing it, even though you could willingly try not to. So just imagine you being Kayla, you being recorded,
Yeah.
and somebody following you around with a camera for 12 years. At a certain point, you're going to start, I don't know, maybe being a little different. You're like, oh, I don't want to act this way. I'm going to do it this way, this way. And there were many times where Luna would start telling me what to shoot. As we were doing different projects, she would go, "Oh no, shoot this or do this way," and then she would bring up people that she wanted to interview. She goes, "Oh, interview this person because this person could talk about this thing, and actually ask them this one thing." I was like, "All right, writing it down, writing it down, writing it down," and then you accumulate all this, and then I look back and I go, "Wait a minute, this is how much of this film was me, and how much of it was her trying to, maybe not blatantly do it, but kind of push me, and then sort of changing the way she's performing for my camera. And I know she's going to deny this, but this is what I was coming to terms with, and I was like, yeah, she uh, isn't the person that the subject of your documentary, aren't they, as this is a true life story, aren't you the director of your own life? Yeah, like it would be wrong of me to tell Luna what to do because it would be good for the movie. I'm just there to capture. It just so happens that she is now directing what her movie is going to be,
Mhm.
and so there's this interesting discussion I would love to have with people about this, and that's why there's two credits, and that's where we are right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you all want to respond to that at all?
So wait, so who's the director of Who is Luna Menoh? I'm kind of confused now. Is it her or is it Jeff or?
I don't know. It's easy. I will say this, Kayla. It's interesting when you look at other subjects of documentaries. So I said this in another interview where um, when you're doing a documentary on an artist in particular, a creator, that is a different uh, type of person,
Yeah.
that where it would lead to them directing their film, versus if you did, say, like a sports documentary on Michael Jordan. I don't know this, but I would assume Michael Jordan doesn't, he just wants to hire the best filmmaker and put the best people in place to tell his story. And he's just going to be who he is, and then that's what the film's going to be. And it's up to the director, and there could be 10 different documentaries about Michael Jordan, and they could all be different.
Mhm.
But when it comes to Luna and artists like her, I think that's where there's a different
Hmm.
factor. So
Mhm.
that's where they could become the director, because they're normally, that's what you normally do as a creator.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that plays really well into one of the questions that I had kind of about the writing process and how, Luna, you were thinking about, you really humorously like address a lot of things in filmmaking, in particular documentary filmmaking, and how they're structured, how interviews are structured, what people say, who's interviewed, especially in that scene that's really kind of the turning point for everything, with you and Jeff having the conversation where you say like, what happened to art, that art is not interesting. And so I'm really curious, when you were thinking about writing the film, what sort of films, maybe documentary films or films prior to that, informed the way that you were thinking about Who was Luna Menoh?
You have to answer this one.
With who am I?
Yeah, wait. I think what it is the situation is there's so many like rock documentaries and stuff, and there's some documentaries. The rock documentaries that are interesting, which sort of exposes the relationship between people.
Mhm.
Doesn't have to do with music or anything, or even like documentaries on fashion designers when they're all working together to put a show on, and how the dressmaker deals with the press person. That's the tension buildup. And then there's the type of documentary where you got the feeling the subject matter sort of paid for everything to make themselves look good. I'm not going to mention any names or any films, but there
Yeah.
are documentaries that just sort of just focus how great I am and stuff. So, after a long time, 11 years of shooting this movie, um, Jeff shot like, different aspects of Luna doing her artwork and stuff, but it never ends because Luna never ends.
Mhm.
She's working on 5 or 6 things at a time. It could be a music thing, could be a fashion thing, or a visual art thing. So what we didn't want, and Luna especially didn't want, she didn't want like a standard documentary on an artist doing her art. like stars like saying, "Oh, I'm so great because I did this or I did
Because there
that."
are certain documentaries like format already, so I don't want to follow that format. So it just is something I wanted to go to something beyond. So that is this movie about what is Luna Menoh slash what is a documentary is. It's like a more revealing of the subject itself, like digging more deeper with a humorous flavor to it.
Yes.
So it's not really like just showing that the difficult theory what is a movie is, but it's more like a humor flavor, make it more approachable, more like a ha ha ha. But what is this? It's like people confused. That I really like that.
And everything is true in the documentary. In the film, everything is true. Nothing's made up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
I just what Jeff confessed just now,
He
and then
confessed.
I just can't tell. It's just I know exactly the moment. It was each time I told the Jeff and, hey Jeff, why don't you shoot this more close up? Because I know my performance, what I'm gonna do. So I know what the punchline is.
Yeah.
So I let the punchline is close up, but Jeff is really far out there. So, Jeff, come, it's just 3, 2, 1, it's like I just wanted to get best shot that Jeff wants. So I remember this. I nag Jeff all the time.
So Jeff directed the movie, but the nagging is by Luna Menoh. Maybe that should be the
yeah, nag by me.
Nag by Luna Menoh.
I think Jack has already brought up an interesting point about performance, and I'm really curious about all of the scenes that are acting. There was a point in which I was watching and I was thinking about sort of like how the audience. This may also be a question about editing as well. How the audience, you're trusting the audience to continue after that first scene with you and Jeff, where Jeff kind of like really nitpicks at you in a way that I was a little bit like, I don't know if I want to continue watching if this is the filmmaker of the film. And so I'm curious about how you directed those scenes and sort of what the feeling was like when you all filmed those scenes and what you were thinking. And then there's a second part to this that I'll ask after you answer that first question.
I could bring up the aspect of the seemingly fake version, like the acting, where it does feel like acting, it does feel like a performance. It does even certain parts. Well, in the film, it kind of ends. Um, like one of the apex parts of the films is when Luna says she forgot her line,
Mhm.
and a lot of that, most of those conversations that were reenactments of what actually happened. So I didn't always have a camera on me, but those were experiences that I did go through. These were discussions that I did have with Luna, and she had with me. Some of them, or a lot of them, were behind her back. So I would wrote it down. I'm like, hey, Luna, this is actually what I said at that one time when when we didn't talk for a while. This is what I was going through, and we put it on. And one of the reasons why it's like that, because this is of a criticism that my film geek friends, they're really hard on me. So this is when they would say, like, it was obvious in the first 5 minutes of, like, we knew this was fake. And
Mhm.
my reasoning is all of this is intentional. And one of the things that I notice with Luna's work is, as she goes to different mediums, whether it's music, sculpture, fashion design, if it's a medium that she's not 100% familiar with, or hasn't 100% mastered, for example, guitar. Like, so in the documentary, Tosh even says that Luna just picked up a guitar and then learned a few notes and then made an album. And and if you're a music theorist, and you observe her music, you're gonna, as a theorist or as a critic, you're gonna go, oh no, that's like three notes played over and over again, and like what's the that's not craft. But that's not the point. I think what Luna does is she just does enough, she learns enough about the craft of a different medium, and only exploit that. And everything else that she doesn't know, she'll either exclude or she'll satirize it. She'll satirize that she doesn't know. She knows that, and I don't know. I'm speaking for you right now, Luna. So jump in if I'm.
It's good.
This is all just my perspective, right? So I see it as okay. Yeah, she only knows 3 notes on the guitar, so she'll do everything, all these cool things, albums, three. I don't know how many albums she has already, but albums of music with 3 notes. And then when if you ever see her live on stage and you see her full set, you would see her go through not a mockery, but like a fun, like a cheeky oh, what's the word? Some sort of satire,
Mhm.
where if you weren't in on the joke, then you would say, "Oh, she doesn't know how to play." But if you are in on the joke, you would say, "Oh, she knows she doesn't know how to play this, and she's making fun of this, and she's making fun of the medium itself and her own." It's not like a stand-up comic self-deprecation, but it's a way of acknowledging like, "Hey, I know what's going on,
Yeah.
and let's all enjoy this, let's all enjoy this joke." Some of my favorite comedians are the comedians where you don't know if what they're telling is a joke. So Andy Kaufman, if we want to go back, I really like to stay really current. I love this movie called it's on Netflix. It's Eric Andre. I don't know if you see it, Kayla.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's a bad trip or something like that.
Yeah.
I love Eric Andre and Tom Green, like those people, the pranksters. Oh, Sacha Baron Cohen with Borat. These
Mhm.
people that are so like maybe 70% of the people won't laugh or will laugh, and then there'll be 30% are like, this isn't funny, or that is this real? Like they don't know. So that's what I love, and the whole purpose of this movie looking fake and having all these limitations, those are all intentional, and I thought that that was part of the the mechanics of the movie and the art that we're trying to say. Like it's more about the idea rather than being sh- sh- anamorphic and Hollywood and all the money. So
Yeah.
When Luna plays guitar, she knows exactly what she's doing and the sound she wants,
Mhm.
but she doesn't go beyond that. I remember during the sound check for previous shows, because she has another guitar player with her, and the sound check, okay, guitar player on the left, which is the good
No,
guitar
the
player.
sound guy.
Yeah, the sound guy says, okay, play guitar, and the guy goes like Jimi Hendrix and doing the blues,
And the sound guy is so impressive. Whoa, that's a good sound.
and then Luna, your turn, and Luna got a bunch of guitar, Fender, Marshall amps, plunk plunk, plunk plunk, plunk plunk.
And the sound guy said, "Go on," and then go on,
She only knows 3 notes.
Yeah, that was funny. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry, off topic, sorry.
I think the second part of that question is in thinking about the editing and you all working together to sort of craft the rhythms of the film, particularly how you kind of balance the parts that are constructed, the parts that are reenactments and performance, with the parts that are more about you as an artist or development, you and Tasha's relationship. So I'm really curious to hear about how you all work together to do that, and to continue to keep the sense of like humor present even in the parts that are a bit more, I think, conventional, maybe is the way that we would maybe talk about them.
I don't know, it's hard for me to say because, again, it was like an 11-year process, shooting the film. Not me as much as Luna, of course. Luna, of course, is like every day almost type of situation. But, again, at first it was just Jeff documenting Luna's public life, like when she did a show, a fashion show, art opening, it was mostly like this mileage of footage of her participating and doing her work and her art. And I think when they realized, when Jeff and Luna came up, or Jeff came up with the whole "Who is Luna Menoh" concept, that's when it started getting like a narrative, like a story of sorts. And maybe Jeff should go on more about that. I don't have anything more to say because I didn't participate that greatly. I was just there. But Jeff and Luna thought of a narrative aspect of the film after a
Yeah,
while.
Yeah, we just
I
keep the footage one after another, and then we don't know what to do with it.
Mhm.
So we don't have any systematic editing way or what we should do till really last minutes. Really, is it true, Jeff? What do you
yeah,
think?
as this is 2021 now, we finished it in 2019.
Mm,
2020 was more for post-production and the pandemic. Um, but the majority of the recreation stuff was shot in 2019, although a lot of the film is shot over, 12 years, 11, 12 years. So it's really hard to answer the question of how things came together because it's just been so long and
yeah.
I already I forgot. I forgot. But I will say to maybe branch off of that question you asked, Kayla, is I love one thing I think I share with Luna is just having uh, ideas and being filled with ideas and how to express these ideas with your limitations.
Mhm,
And what I came to this direction that then we both collaborated on it. But the initial idea was I'm a really and this also goes to a previous question you asked about an influence,
mhm,
another film documentary influence. There's a filmmaker named Kaveh Zahedi. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a long-time filmmaker. He was in one of my first films.
mhm,
And so Kaveh Zahedi, he's also, I think, a film professor in New York right now. But he made a film, I Am a Sex Addict, which is what he's most famous for. And then he's also famous for The Sheik and I,
mhm,
where he tries to make a mock documentary in the Arab country, and it was really dangerous. He was trying to make fun of that, and it almost got him killed. But he did this. There's this show he did for this Brooklyn website. I think it's called Brick, and it's called The Show About the Show. And it had come out in 2018 or a year prior, and I was fascinated about the show because it, the show is called The Show About the Show, and it's a show where every episode is about the making of the previous episode.
mhm,
And, and, and that's the concept of the show. So the first pilot of the show is about how they tried to make the pilot. And then the
mhm.
second episode is how they tried to make the first episode about the pilot. And then it just goes into this kind of
So
almost like a
funny.
Drost effect, a picture in picture, where there's this loop. It's never ending. So I brought that up and I tied it in with Luna, and I wrote this down here because I thought it'd be cute for everybody, for your audience. So Luna, fashion designer number one, I believe I would say she would say her fashion design is her everything she thinks about most of the time. And with fashion to make a pun, there's fabric. So I don't know if you had, is this show Fabric?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
I thought like, oh, fabric, the documentary is a fabrication,
Mm,
Mhm.
and that's what film is. Film is fabrication. Film is reality is an illusion, and Luna is a, let me see, get this right on. So she's a fabricator. And I thought that was fun. I don't know if I never went over that, but and the idea of she's all about putting on masks and costumes. And there's one interview I did with the brilliant Robert Greene, brilliant author who are friends with Luna and Tosh, believe it or not. This amazing author and Anna Biller, amazing people that are friends with Luna. And I was asking Robert, what his perspective is on Luna, and he was bringing up this whole masks thing, this mask perspective, where he said that he was trying to go in breaking down. I don't know if it's more of an anthropological or historical context, from his point of view, but he was saying, yeah, it's a costume, and the difference is when Luna embraces the mask and the costume you're on. So the clothes that you wear, whatever you makeup, anything that you put on yourself when you go outside every day, that is a version of yourself
mhm.
that you want other people to see. And is that your real identity? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe you don't know that this is your real identity. Like I don't wear a lot of Western shirts, but today I am. So I don't know. Maybe people have a stereotype of somebody who wears this. Am I a hipster? I don't know. But that's I thought that was a great idea, and to meld the idea of clothing and the fabrication and the aspect that film is an illusion, and that reality could be an illusion, and I just love diving into that. I'm not sure 100% if that comes across in the film, but
Mhm.
those are the ideas that were an attempt to showcase.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think I don't remember exactly who said this quote, but it's one that I wrote down while I was watching the movie, where one of the people you interview was talking about imposed image on reality. And I think that something that does what you were talking about just now does really come across in the film, and the artifice and kind of the performance within documentary itself. That'll probably be my last question for you all. In thinking about kind of the entire film as a performance, and the construction of documentary as a performance, because film can never truly capture reality. We can attempt as much as possible, but it's never truly going to. And so
Hmm.
I kind of just wanted to hear both of you talk about that, and then also sort of there's the point, Luna, kind of about you as a person, but also Luna Menoh as the artist, and how you perform that role. And so I just wanted to hear from both of you sort of about those two ideas in particular.
Hmm.
The, what,
The real Luna Menoh and
And-
Luna Menoh's a performance, or what do you do every day as an
myself?
artist? Yeah, like a separate identity? Is it?
I didn't really pay attention, but I guess so, because Luna Menoh is my artist name. So I have a real Japanese name,
Mhm.
and then so I feel like maybe my identity become Luna Menoh. That was like since 80s I changed my name. I mean, official change my name. At the time, the reason I changed my name because is I have exactly same family name,
Hmm.
last name, first name to get in Tokyo. So that's the reason I changed my name. But it just since then I was using it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, for instance, example is right now Luna is wearing a blue work outfit that she made. Whenever she's doing Luna Menoh stuff, she wears that.
Mm.
So
this is my uniform
So
for
that's-
TV,
so-
Luna Menoh.
So when she's in her studio working, that's what she wears. Even by herself. I'm not in the house, nobody in the house except her in the studio. She puts this uniform on to do her work.
So to change my identity, does this clothes may change?
I don't want to change your identity.
Not
but
identity, but it changed that there's something that inside.
yeah, even I have an identity. I'm not like Luna, but there's certain clothes you wear that you go to work. And I'm not talking about if you work at a bank and stuff, but like, okay, I'm gonna do so. I'm a writer mostly. So when I write, I do put on some clothes that I feel it's appropriate for me as a writer to wear as I'm writing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a totally identity thing, but I don't think about that deeply, but it's obvious there's a disconnect of somewhere where, I have to shave or something before I do my work in my own studio. And Lynn does the same thing with her work.
Recently, I was thinking that just reminds me, just that like I feel like myself has two different things, body and soul.
Yes.
And then the soul is maybe Luna Menoh all the time, but my body is Atsuko Shimizu Berman. So my real world. So it's the two different category in my existence. So it's like it's always thinking what to do is the Luna Menoh thing, but like my body is a content, my body is hardware and software. And then so I have to maintain my hardware once in a while. And then it's that the software is right there. It's always active.
Jeff, how about you? Do you have a separate identity when you're doing your work, a uniform?
I guess so. I guess the one I'm wearing right now is a separate identity. But I think that my identity is always when I'm on camera. I think when I'm on camera, I'm somebody else, but when I'm off camera, I'm somebody else.
I rarely see you off camera, come to think of it.
Yeah, well, because it's been a while, so maybe one day.
We can only dream that we'll be together in one room someday.
Yeah. I love the little move that you did, Jeff, to again question the construction of things. Like, I did not initially think you were in the same space, and then you moved, and now I know that you are. But thank you all so much for this conversation. Is there anything else that you all want to say about the film as we end things, or things you want to make sure people who are watching know about it? Is there?
Personally, I feel like you must see it at least 2 or 3 times, and even more important, pay each time you see it. What about you?
I agree.
You agree?
At least once.
Well, at least once. I would do it 2 or 3 times. You know?
Yeah, I think it's really combined to the 3 or 4 different movie.
The sad thing is finishing the movie, because I sort of enjoyed being the presence of Jeff, and the whole process was very enjoyable for me, at least.
Yeah.
And now the movie's over. It's like, what are we gonna do with our lives?
I think it's just each time I myself is watching that the movie itself is like is a different. I found a different place that I could really focus on.
Yeah.
So it's like first time I was like, oh, okay. On the second time it's another thing's revealing. So it just has like one a movie, but has a lot of different way of to looking at.
Yeah.
So that's what is just this documentary is,
Yes.
if it's called documentary.
Who is Luna Menoh?
Jeff, do you have anything else you want to add? All right.
Said it all. Nothing more to say.
Well, thank you all so much for the film, for your time, for this wonderful conversation. Thank you again for being a part of the festival. And I hope people watching, you enjoy the film and watch it as many times as Tosh just suggested to you two. It'll be available throughout the festival. So watch it 3 or 4 or 5 times. But thank you all so much again, and have a good rest of your day.
Take
Thank
care.
you for having us.